All right, guys, I'm so excited to bring to you what I'm about to bring to you. I had a lot of questions about where's the replay for today's webinar, and guys, this was fire. It was a long webinar because we just didn't want to stop. We could have went for 8 hours, but we had to cut it off. I'm going to show you a couple of highlights and give you a little bit of context. I've got Lefteris, which is a freaking brain stud data scientist, and I've got Fletch. Joshua Fletcher. We all know Professor Fletch, right? Dr. Fletch. Man, these two brain guys are so powerful. And then David Hood was on the call. Josh Beecraft was on the call. But in this next clip, I'm going to give you just a small glimpse of what exactly it was that we were discussing today. The cool thing about what you're about to see is this is not a highly talked about topic. Just this clip alone is going to blow your mind and really raise the roof for the kind of content that we're going to be bringing you at SEO at the Beach. So watch this preview and then feel free to click below and watch the actual full replay of today's webinar because it's going to be insane. Give yourself some context. One of the biggest topics around SEO at the Beach is going to be a phrase. We're going to call it topical relevance. Now, I know we've heard that word before. I promise you that you probably haven't heard the word in the framework or in the context that we're going to use it today. We really don't know what to call it because this thing is like, it just goes deep, crazy, deep dive into SEO. And so what you're about to see in the next clip is literally just a small glimpse of today's webinar. And I encourage you, after you watch that, to sit down, block out 2 hours of time because it's a long webinar, and just absorb, because when we go to SEO at the Beach in February, this is going to be the thread throughout all the topics discussed by all of our speakers, and it starts today. I have a question for the audience, everyone here, and if you want to put a one in the chat box, let me know. Have you ever had a question of why a page, whether it's an authority page like a Yelp or like a listing or something, or if it's just like some random little weird site that you just look at it and it goes against everything you understand about SEO, and you're like, how is this thing ranking, or how is this outranking me? Put a one in the chat bot if you've ever thought something like that. I want to see. We got some ones coming in. That's awesome. So
I might as well put a one in there too, because I certainly had these questions, and that's actually one of the things that led me to start trying to seek understanding is such a core thing. It's like, if you want to just, download some information from somebody else, please seek out somebody else who has tried to actually properly understand this stuff from like first principles. Because if you can get to that place and download some of that into your own mind, you're going to find ways to apply this stuff that we don't necessarily think of, or anybody doesn't necessarily. Like the beautiful thing, and like talking about Leos and like really being like data driven. I was kind of more like philosophy driven. I know Leo is too, but like I was just trying to understand the web and how it works and how search engines actually kind of work. And in doing that, talking about local, we'll increase the number of keywords a website's ranking from like 50 to 1,000 in like 30 or 45 days, and also move up the big keywords that or there's more traffic in. But it's really the way to build influence on the internet that I see that is most accessible to anyone who can start to pull this apart and change maybe the mental framework you've got for what SEO is, and shift it a little more fundamentally and foundationally toward how the internet actually works, how the web actually works.
And do you think? Oh, go ahead. Somebody had
sorry,
something.
just to that point, I actually because of the foundation of like how it works, how I understand it, right? Like I had like a friend who was he's a very big name in the SEO industry, and he was a very kind of like sort of like, it wasn't an early adopter of what I was doing and like what I was, preaching, and how we can analyze, and why it doesn't make sense to just look at page one, and why it doesn't make sense to look just an n amount of overlaps when we're doing this sort of like SERP analysis. But then he started using like these principles and like different tools. And again, this is not a plug for a tool. This is a plug for like a frame of thought. And once he started like, experimenting with the velocity of posts, and also with the interlinking and the branching, and thinking of the website as a whole, as a branching, as a massive dendrogram, or as a massive like genealogy tree, whatever helps you visualize it. he was telling me that there's a lot of people in the industry right now that, first of all, start thinking cannibalization in a very different term, because cannibalization has been deemed as this demon of
I
like,
love
no,
cannibalization. I love it. I've had people look at sites of mine over the years, and they'll be like, "Hey, I think your problem is you're over cannibalized on this key." No, I'm not. I rank for number one,
yeah,
number two, number three. I'm not over anything. I'll
yeah,
take all three spots, please.
and it's so fun. And also, like, people have been talking about the sandbox, right? Like the sandbox of like what's. But now we're seeing like, how is a site that's like has no backlink starts to rank in the first month? It wasn't, and people start thinking of something different. It's not just necessarily the sandbox. Is how authoritative are you proving to be? How trustworthy are you proving to be about a specific subject?